Today we're going to be talking about simple sidebars. Really my favorite add-on to Genesis, and probably the main reason why I love Genesis so much. Little bit of background on what Simple Sidebars is. It is a Genesis add-on. It's a plugin that only works with Genesis. So if your website is pre-Genesis, unfortunately this is not going to be relevant to you. But anyone that we built your site in the last about 19 months or so has been on Genesis. What Simple Sidebars does is allows us to create unique sidebars and assign them on a case-by-case basis, page or post-by-post basis. This allows us to create very relevant content in the sidebar to what is on the page. Now, if we look at a traditional, let's see here. If we look at a traditional website, you've got the header and the navigation that's shared by the entire site. You've got a footer that's usually shared by the entire site. And you have a sidebar that is shared by the entire site. So when I go to, for instance, this buyer's page, I really only have probably less than half of the page devoted to buyers. And once people see that the sidebar hasn't changed and over page by page, the human brain actually starts to just ignore it. You know, subconsciously it says, oh, I've already seen that. I don't need to focus on that. What Simple Sidebars does is allows us to create a sidebar, in this case for the buyer section, that would have buyer relevant content in it. So if we're looking at a buyer section, I may want to incorporate IDX information. If you're using something like Diverse Solutions with their IDX Press or IDX Broker that has widgets as well, you can go in there and you could say, all right, I want to show featured properties, and use one of their little slideshow widgets to show homes I think are good. Maybe save searches as far as price ranges or REOs or short sales, things of that sort. I may want to use it for sub-navigation. I've really become not as big of a fan of drop-downs. I think that's kind of come around because I'm doing a lot of my web surfing on my iPhone these days. And drop-downs are difficult. Your fingers are too fat for those little screens. And most of our clients, from what we've been seeing in the analytics, most of our clients receive between 5 and up to about 12% of their traffic on some sort of a mobile device, usually an iPhone, an iPad, a Droid, or a Droid tablet. And that number is growing very quickly. So instead of having a drop-down, we could actually have people go to a buyer section and then put the sub-pages here in the sidebar. Other things you may want to use it for are featured posts. Maybe I've got some blog articles I think are good for buyers, and I categorize them as buyers, and I'm going to show the most recent buyer blog posts in the sidebar. You could even have featured videos just for different sections. So you probably have the idea now where we want to make it so that everything from below the navigation and above the footer is relevant to that page, whether it's for buyers, for sellers. I really like the idea if you are doing multiple cities. A lot of our clients are in the East Bay, a lot of them in the Tri-Valley, and a lot of them work in Pleasanton, Livermore, and Dublin. You could actually have a Pleasanton page with a Pleasanton sidebar and show homes in Pleasanton under 500,000, 5 to 600, 6 to 800,000 as links in the sidebar utilizing your IDX. You could show your articles from your blog about Pleasanton and show some really good deals through the IDX in Pleasanton, and maybe you've done yourself a cool little video about Pleasanton. Put that in there, and then when you make sub-pages like neighborhoods, probably just keeping the Pleasanton sidebar in place and using that same sidebar for every sub-page within that section. So let's go in and see how we can use simple sidebars. I'm going to go into the back end. So simple sidebars, the step to using simple sidebars is, well, first you have to have it installed, and all of our websites included installed. But you create your sidebar, then you populate your sidebar, so put in the content that is going to go in that sidebar, and then you add that sidebar to any page or post that you want to. So with those three steps in mind, let's create a sidebar. Under Genesis here, you will see Simple Sidebars. I'm going to click on that. In Genesis Simple Sidebars, it is showing me all of my sidebars. These are all in a kind of a dark gray. Those signify that those are hard-coded sidebars. Your template has them built in. And depending on whether we built your site on AgentPress 1, AgentPress 2, or Lifestyle or some of the other ones we've used over the last year and a half, these sidebars are going to be a little bit different, as well as if we customize some things for you. There's going to be some different ones in there. But I can add my own right here without having to touch any code. And for this example, I'm going to create a sidebar for my buyers section. The idea is I want people to go into the For Buyers section because they say, oh, I'm a buyer. I'm going to go in there. And they can peruse around in that section, go into sub-pages, and really getting everything I have to offer for buyers without them having to pop around my site too much. This is great for a user experience. It is also amazing for search engine optimization. We're doing what is called siloing, where you create a section, sections or silos of your website, a seller's silo, a buyer's silo, a Pleasanton silo, Livermore silo, Dublin silo, where people can get in there and interlink to different sub-pages. So I'm going to just call this buyers. I give it a name, and no one really sees this name except for yourself, so it needs to be a recognizable name for your new sidebar. I'm just going to call it buyers. Now the unique ID, this is unique. It can't be anything else here in the sidebar. Use all lowercase and no spaces and no funny characters except for the hyphen. So for this one, I'm just going to call it buyers. I could put buyers hyphen sidebar, whatever I'd like, but I know what it's for if I just call it buyers. And I could give it a description. I don't have to. The first two are required. The description is just for me to remember. Sidebar for buyers section, period. Real easy. This is just so that you don't get confused. It can get confusing as you start adding a lot of sidebars. We have one client that's gotten a little bit obsessed with simple sidebars. Last time I checked, he had 78 sidebars he had created. That's a little bit too much. The management of that is very difficult. He basically made a different sidebar for every neighborhood that he's focusing on. I think that was probably overkill. He's doing all these different neighborhoods in 3 different cities. I think you should have just done the sidebar for each of the 3 cities. If you have 4 or 5 sidebars that you've added, that's going to be all that you can really manage, because it starts getting sloppy. You don't update things properly, and it just won't look as good. So you'll see when I clicked on add a new sidebar after I put that in, I now have a sidebar in blue. That means it was created by Simple Sidebars. I can also delete the sidebar if I no longer need it, or I can edit it and go back and change the name. I've never really had to edit them. Sometimes I've deleted them because I've gone in a different direction. But we now have a sidebar called buyers, and I can go on to step 2, which is populating the sidebar. This is a sidebar. You fill it with widgets. So I'm going to go down to Appearance and go to Widgets. You will see here at the very bottom, I now have a new sidebar called Buyers. It has nothing in it, so I need to go in and populate this. Now, a little bit of planning ahead of time. And this could be, I've got a huge dry erase board in my office, and I do a lot of stuff just in dry erase. Could be on a piece of paper or a cocktail napkin. But organize things, plan them out, brainstorm on, okay, what information, what content do I have available, whether it's through IDX, through, if I'm using Altos for maybe some market updates, your own content, what do I have that would be of value to a buyer? And put it all in one spot. We don't want people to have to go to a website and say, okay, I need to go to a video section to see about videos for buyers, and go to the blog and find blog articles for buyers, and then bounce over here, bounce over there. You want them to be able to go to one section of your website that is relevant to their needs, and they can see everything there. If they're also selling their home, then they can go to the seller section and look at everything you have for your sellers. So for buyers, first I'm going to go over and I'm going to grab the Genesis featured posts. Now, we've actually used on this demo, we're using a different one called Featured Widget Amplified. But if we haven't added that one to your site, it's a fairly new plugin, something with a little bit more functionality than the basic Genesis one. But the basic Genesis featured post widget will work. I'm going to go down here and I'm just going to drag this, drop it right on in. And I'm going to call this posts for buyers. And I'm going to put in posts, and I'm going to say I have already categorized some of my blog articles for buyers. So I'm going to use that buyers category. Let's see, I'm going to show maybe 3. I wouldn't put too many. I'll show the featured image. I'll make it a nice little small image and align it to the left. We will be doing a class on working with the Genesis widgets a little bit later in this series. So if there's a lot of features in there, you're like, what the heck? Don't worry, we'll get to them. Let's see, other things I may want to put on in, for buyers, IDX would be great. On this demo, we don't have a live IDX system on here, but if it was for buyers, I would say definitely going in and grabbing, doing some saved searches, things like that could be very good. Adding a quick search to that sidebar would be good as well. Now, maybe I want to put in some testimonials, because I've got some good testimonials from recent buyers that worked with me. And then I talked about sub-navigation. Now, I did not make a sub-nav or a custom navigation. Carol did a presentation last week or week before on creating custom menus. Let's say I'd gone in and I'd created some sub-pages and put them into a custom menu under Appearance Menus. Let's do that right now. What the heck? I go over to Menus, and I'm going to create a new one, and I'm going to call this Buyers Sub Pages. No one sees this but you. So don't worry, it's just got to be something that rings in your mind. And then I'm going to create, find the pages that would be relevant to buyers. Meet my team. Maybe I'll give them my neighborhoods page. These are bad examples, but on your own site, you'll probably have some better examples. I add those to a menu and I save it. Again, we have a whole class. Video will be up shortly on agentevolution.com going over how to create these menus. Now I'm going to go to Widgets, back over to Widgets, grab the custom menu, drop this on over. Whoop. First I got to open it. Now I'm going to drag it on over, and I'm going to put this very up top. And I'm going to just use the drop-down Buyers Sub Pages. I'm not even going to put a title in on this one. We'll see how it looks. You can go back and forth and see what you think of it. So now I have got a buyer's sidebar. I can always go back and edit this, modify it, play with it until I get it the way I like it. So we've now gone through creating a sidebar, and then we just populated the sidebar. our final step is adding that sidebar to a page. I'm going to go over to my pages, and I'm going to find my For Buyers page. Here it is. And you will see here sidebar selection. This is an area that was added by Simple Sidebars. You can change your primary sidebar and your secondary sidebar. Very, very few of our clients are even using a secondary sidebar. That's for folks that want to have a content and then two sidebars. What we found is under most circumstances that makes for kind of a busy environment. So most of our clients are just using a content with one sidebar, and that would be the primary sidebar. I now choose, oh hey, there it is. There's my buyer sidebar. When I update this, you will now see when I go and I view the page, I now have my sidebar, my buyer sidebar. Totally different than every other page of the site. I've got my navigation here. I've got my recent blog articles, and heck, I probably did a little bit too much content here. I would probably want to do something a little bit smaller. So I can always go back to widgets under appearance and kind of tweak with these things. So I'm going to go back on over here. I'm going to say show content limit. And I only want 150 characters. Now let's give 100 characters and just kind of play with this. Much better. I may even go even smaller. Now, I showed that Meet the Team was a subpage. I don't have the buyer's sidebar there because I haven't gone over and updated that one. So for all of my sub pages, I also want to go back to those pages and choose the appropriate sidebar for them. So I would go over here and choose the buyer's sidebar. So if I were to go in and be doing this maybe for a community, for a city, I would create a page. I would call it Pleasanton. I would publish it. I would probably create another page, maybe call it Pleasanton Schools, and make that parent. For its parent is Pleasanton. It's a child page. And maybe I'll do homes for sale. Yep, you know, let's lead with it. Pleasanton homes for sale. And I'm going to make this one the parent. Its parent, Pleasanton. And I published this one. I probably should have gone in to save myself a little bit of time and created my simple sidebar for Pleasanton already. But I'm going to go back to Genesis Simple Sidebars. I'm going to create one called Pleasanton. Add it. Go back to my pages. Go back to Pleasanton. Change its sidebar to Pleasanton. Do that for my sub pages. This Pleasanton homes for sale, I probably use my IDX if I had diverse solutions, and drop a save search, active Pleasanton single family or something of that sort in there. If I used DSID Express, Google would see that. It would give me a little bit of Google juice. Pleasanton Schools, maybe I'm going to write something about Pleasanton. Maybe I'm going to use education.com using simple real estate pack so I can get some Pleasanton school information. I now have a whole section, Pleasanton, that all the pages have a Pleasanton sidebar. I'm now going to populate my Pleasanton sidebar, going to widgets under appearance. Nothing's in there. I don't have any blog articles that are labeled Pleasanton, but if I did, I'll do Pleasanton blog posts. We will pretend that my buyers category is really Pleasanton, and I've marked blog articles that are relevant to people in Pleasanton there. I'm going to format this a little bit. I would then go in, grab some widgets from my IDX. Would love to get into here. Pleasanton, save searches by price range, homes in Pleasanton with RV parking, anything that your clients are asking for. Home attributes. Look at what people are asking for and what you normally do in searches for those clients. And then go in and save those searches in your IDX, get the links, and you can actually use custom menus to create links to those saved searches. I didn't make a menu for Pleasanton for my subpages. Let me do that right now. I'll create a new one. I call this just Pleasanton. And I'm going to put in the Pleasanton page and the subpages. I'm going to actually call this Pleasanton Home because that's the home page for my Pleasanton section. Pleasanton Homes for Sale, Pleasanton Schools. That's good with me. I'm going to save this. I'm going to go back to Appearance, to Widgets. Grab the custom menu. And, of course, again, I forgot to open this up before I dropped it on in. Custom menu, drop this in, choose Pleasanton, save it. Now, if we go back and take a look at the page, I will just view. There's nothing on the page, so it's a very short page, but you can see that I now have an environment where people can click around. Everything from below the navigation to above the footer is purely about Pleasanton. You're able to then make it so that there is a lot more useful information on each page. Excellent. So remember the 3 steps. Create your sidebar, populate the sidebar, and then add the sidebar to each page or post that you want to add it to. From there, very simple. Just make sure you do a little bit of planning. Think it out. Sketch it out on paper, dry erase board, however you think. And then you will have an amazing website that is so much better than your competition.